All right, happy Tuesday, everybody. Tuesday night here in Raiderland, coming to you from Raiderland Worldwide Headquarters. Had a huge show last night. RJ Ochoa hanging out with us, talking about the Dallas Cowboys and getting your thoughts to the Quentin Joyner injury. We extend off that tonight on Tuesday. Are injuries your biggest concern for Texas Tech football this year? Would that be the biggest thing that you think hinders the Red Raiders, or could it be something else? What is your biggest concern in for Texas Tech to reach whatever goal you have set for them this year? What is that? You tell us tonight. Tuesday's best. Every Tuesday we go searching for the best in a certain category. Tonight, Texas Tech football all time, your greatest, your favorite quarterback running back duos in the backfield, same time. Quarterback handing off to the running back, quarterback faking to the running back, throwing downfield, quarterback giving to the running back doing stuff, whatever. Your two favorite, your two best quarterback running back duos all time at Texas Tech. We don't stop there. Why would we? We're going to talk about the Big 12 tonight and the overarching storyline really going into any given year right now for any conferences. How many teams can you get into the postseason? How many teams can you get into the playoffs? Over under 1.5. John Kurtz, our man from the Midwest, has a great podcast online show. He'll join us about 6:50 tonight. If you're, we link to him. We put his stuff up almost every day in Raiderland Hot Links. He is one of the OGs covering the Big 12 out of Manhattan, Kansas State, and everything else. We're going to talk to him tonight about, is there a path to two teams into the playoffs for the Big 12? If so, what is it? And then really anything and everything else that's on your mind. Let's make it happen tonight in 3, in 2. Good evening, West Texans, all you good, fine, friendly folks out there who wish you were. I'm Ryan Hyatt, TheRaiderland.com, where you start your day every day with our question of the day, Raiderland Hot Links, our thoughts in the morning. Brought to you every night by United Supermarkets on the United Supermarkets chat line. If you're talking to us, whether you are on, I don't know, Facebook, Ryan Hyatt's Raiderland, YouTube channel, like Flatland Sports already on YouTube. There you go. Hit like, by the way, and share it. United Supermarkets takes care of that. On Twitter, at Ryan Hyatt Media, or should I say X? At Ryan Hyatt Media on Twitter. Brought to you tonight by our friends at Gators Bayou 98th and Slide Road in Lubbock. You're making your way into town for the games. You want some hot Cajun food, cold drinks, great patio, live music on the weekends, all the games on TV. You want Gators Bayou. When you drive by, tell them we said, hey, South Plains College, the road to Raiderland runs through level land. So many great Red Raiders started off as great Texans. Looking at you, Cheryl Swoops, among so many others. Find out what they've got. I think enrollment is still going on, but check their website, check their Facebook page. We link to it everywhere on our site. But South Plains College, such a great component of the educational complex here in West Texas. And it's intertwined. They work with Texas Tech. Dang near, I gotta watch how I say this, but dang near everything you take over there will, in some form or fashion, translate to what you're going to do at Texas Tech after you get an associate's, or just taking summer classes or fall classes within your degree plan. So check out our friends at Southlands College. And now we begin. Oh, by the way, shirt tonight feels like a Waylon Jennings kind of night. All right, we're rocking the Waylon Jennings t-shirt. This is actually from a Waylon Jennings birthday bash out there in Littlefield about maybe 20 years or so ago. Maybe 15 years or so ago. Our friend F. Scott can probably fill in the blanks on that. So there we go. All right. Your biggest concerns for Texas Tech. We talked about the injury last night to Quentin Joyner, the domino effect I believe it has on depth and on special teams, which, some people say, well, you're just, okay, that's fine. Well, Jacoby Williams won't return kicks. Well, the hidden yardage on special teams is what takes a good team to a really good team, and a really good team to a great team. And that's kind of what you're trying to do today, this year with this roster, right? You're trying to go from good to really good to whatever. Are injuries the biggest worry you have, or is it something else? Is it cohesion with all the new faces? Is it two new coordinators, offense, defense, that get thrust into the Big 12 and how they handle that? What is your biggest concern? Whatever, and you can say, hey, my biggest concern to Texas Tech getting to 9 wins, 10 wins, 11 wins, whatever, Big 12 title game is X. What is that? And then Tuesday's best. And I've got a few. Some of these guys you may or may not remember. Your favorite, your best running back quarterback duos, Texas Tech history. Jump in on that United Supermarkets chat line, Market Street chat line, whether you're on YouTube, whether you're on Facebook, whether you're on Twitter X at Ryan Hyatt Media. Get in there and tell us what you're thinking tonight. All right. JC jumps in. Greetings, duos. Dare I go with my day? Billy Joe Tolliver and an underrated James Gray in 1988. Waiting to burst onto the scene. There's that man, James Gray. He looks like he's down. He looks like he's stumbling. That's a hand on the ground and a balance that carries on for another 7 yards. So James Gray out of Fort Worth Trimble Tech, Billy Joe Tolliver. Okay, so here's what's fascinating. Get a good look at this. I wrote down Tolliver and I crossed it out, and then I wrote down Gill and Gray. Jamie Gill and James Gray in 1989. With Tolliver, I think of Irvin Ferris. I do think of Gray. I think of the Smurfs and a lot of other components. But I think of Jamie Gill and James Gray hand in hand in 1989. That if I'm going with James Gray, the running back, the quarterback I put him with is Jamie Gill in 89 and not Tolliver. But it's good. James jumping in there with just thumbs up. He's happy. He's thumbs up. First couple of days of school are getting knocked out. Life is good. You're on the daily broadcast. Brought to you by Gators, Bayou in Lubbock. Hot Cajun food, ice cold drinks. South Plains College, United Supermarkets on the chat line. I mean, he's just glad to be here. Growing up for me as a Tech fan, probably. See, here's the deal. This is where Don Williams from the Avalanche Journal would trump me early 70s, mid 70s when we're talking about Rodney Allison or Jimmy Carmichael or Joe Barnes or a couple of other guys and running backs. But for me, it was probably 78 and Ron Reeves, then a freshman or sophomore, young quarterback, Ron Reeves, the pride of J.D. Hutchinson Junior High, and James Hadnot. And that upset win against Houston in 1978 Thanksgiving weekend in the throwback uniforms. We linked to that. We put that up there on our site today, theraiderland.com. If you want to see what real throwbacks could look like, that's a throwback that a rancher in the Panhandle created in 1978 for him. Ralph Blodgett out of Spearman, who hated Joe Kirk Fulton, which is a whole nother story. But yeah, Reeves, for me growing up, Reeves and Hadnot, probably my first quarterback running back duo. I know that's unfair to Rodney Allison, Coach Allison, however you want to address him. It's probably unfair, but Don can have the other one. Chris jumps in. Hey, Chris, on Facebook. Ryan Hyatt's Raiderland on Facebook. Don't forget, coming up tonight, here in about 12 minutes, John Kurtz, Big 12 media guru. He's one of the OGs in Big 12 media, going back to when the Big 8 and the Big 12 or the Southwest Conference and the Big 8 got smashed together. I mean, 23,000 subscribers on his YouTube channel can't be wrong. Looking forward to getting his thoughts on the Big 12 right now. Looks like Michael Henderson, third to running back room now, might mean special teams work too. Yeah, you got to shuffle people around. Not surprised on the flip, but it's Jacoby Williams, it's Cameron Dickey. In the Hill kid from Albany. Meanwhile, back at James, I enjoyed Cliff and Torian. Torian was underutilized, in my opinion. Well, really, Cliff early on, yeah, is Ricky Williams and Cliff. Torian's after Cliff. Torian Henderson comes after, for the most part. Early on, though, it was Ricky and Cliff. JC, I don't have a concern until I do. All right, you know what? What movie does that remind me of? What movie does that remind you of right there? Great actor. They pay me not to. They pay me to be concerned when I got no reason to be concerned about anything. Well, Mitch, here's the news. I'm paraphrasing. I blew the line, but you get the idea. But it seems the biggest concern for most is rarefied air of huge success, PTSD. I agree with that. That there are those people out there that are just afraid of expectations. As I scratch my back and hit my elbow against a printer arm. Rarefied air of huge success. Yeah, people are afraid of success. A lot of people are uncomfortable with expectations. That sucks, but it's true. All right, so if it's not injuries for Texas Tech fans, what would your biggest concern be? And I think injuries are a legitimate concern, even with the depth that you have that's better. That, you bring in guys and, hey, something happens, and now all of a sudden you don't have Romello Height. Not put that on you, Ricky Bobby. Not doing that. I think actually for me it would boil down to a couple of different things. Your schedule is unfriendly. It's just not friendly. Your toughest games to get to the Big 12 title game in the Big 12, they're on the road. You got to go win road games. Not easy under any coach, under any scenario, in any conference. You've got to go win 2 out of 3, 3 out of 4 against quality opponents on the road. The other thing, and there's no way to completely quantify this, new coordinators. I think the new coordinator aspect is actually lessened in college football today because everywhere you look, every major program has so many new players in, they're all having to learn new terminology. That there are not 3 and 4 year guys at most programs that have been doing the same thing under the same coordinators and head coach like in years past. So the idea of new terminology, being up to speed, all that, no, nobody's up to speed. Everybody is playing, I think, from a shorthand on that at the card table, that everybody's in the same boat in college football right now. Ton of transfers. Nobody really knows anything. You just figure it out as you go. So Texas Tech has 3 non-conference games, tomato cans, that Muhammad Ali at age 35 would have been just embarrassed to fight. But you got them on your schedule. Hi there, Pine Bluff, Kent. Eesh. You get the idea. So we go back to the injury thing. That could be the biggest concern that you could have. Tuesday's best top running back quarterback duos in the history of ever. Jump in on the United Supermarkets chat line. John Kurtz coming up. We're going to talk Big 12's chances in the postseason, how many teams you might be able to get in, and just, general overall talk. He's a dude who can talk about a myriad of things. You have no idea where me and John may go on this conversation. Heaven help us. No idea where this thing may end up. That's why I wanted to have him on. I hope I can get him on. I hope it goes well tonight. You guys be nice. Share this. Share this podcast tonight. Share this broadcast and tell him thanks and everything else. John says, "Hey y'all." What do we say to John? Everybody in the class on the United Supermarket chat line. Hey y'all, John. Will McGuire take the points with kicking more this year? versus the previous years? Are you saying it's a move away from analytics? Are you saying that you think they have a great kicker in what's his name? Upton Bellefond? No, I don't think there'll be any deviation from the analytics-based approach on, hey, this is a good time to go for it. This is not a bad time to go for it. All those things. So no, I don't think, and I think really this year, if he believes in the offense and the offensive line, James, and Baron Morton's healthy, you may see him go for it even more in the red zone and eschew. That is a fancy word. I think it is French. Eschew the 3-point try. I disdain the 3-point try. Kurtz is awesome. Is he? Is he really awesome? I mean, he's pretty good. Is he awesome? Well, wolf to you. I don't know that Kurtz is awesome. I mean, Colonel Kurtz, different deal. You know, Colonel Kurtz, a different deal. We're going upriver, man. I can tell by looking at you, wherever we're going, it's really hot. Where often he gets that? Probably a lot. Be with us in about 4 or 5 minutes. That gives you time. Tuesday's best top quarterback, running back duos, Texas Tech all time. Your favorite ones. Where are my Robert Hall, Bam Morris people? I'm embarrassed. I hate it for you. Where are my Robert Hall, Bam Morris people? You know, really embarrassed that we don't have that one. I know you didn't. See, that's the thing with David Collier, KMAC 28 sports director, who may or may not join the show tomorrow to talk Texas Tech over under win totals. I don't know. We don't know. We never know where he's going to be. The man is tied up in meetings all day long. I don't know anybody that I know who goes to more meetings than David Collier. I don't get it. Anyhow, he will allegedly be on. Are you on TV tonight, by the way, Collier? You could ask the question. Quarterback, running back duos, all-time Texas Tech. Your favorite ones, all time. Who you got? Yeah, so Robert Hall and Bam Morris. Nobody? Anybody? Is it difficult over the last 20 years for you guys because it's been so pass heavy to sit there and give a quarterback, running back like Mahomes? And I think somebody earlier said Mahomes and DeAndre Washington, or Mahomes and Washington. I mean, you don't think of Mahomes and any running back, at least I don't, that you just say they're intertwined. Oh yeah, he had running backs, but one of the greatest quarterbacks statistically, not win-wise, but statistically, there's nobody I associate Mahomes with running back-wise. Kurtz thinks Guinness is a world record. Hope he's joining from Dublin. I don't believe he is. Collier believes he's on TV tonight, which is good enough for me. Robert Hall says Jay and Bam Morris. I'll say it, the NC State game was rough. NC State 1993. So Texas Tech is salting away a win against NC State in 1993. Rick Dykes, the offensive coordinator, Spike Dykes, the head coach, and Texas Tech is just trying to grind out the end of the game, get a win against NC State. The start of the season has been bad. New athletic director. I think it was, it's 93. I think that's right. And all they're trying to do is salt it away. Bam Morris fumbles the football on just a routine carry, trying to grind out the clock. NC State recovers. They go down the field. Eddie Goins, back of the end zone as time expires. Touchdown catch. Wolfpack wins. And another chapter in the Spike Dykes can't get it done when it matters most to. Brutal. Thanks, Jay. Appreciate you bringing that up. Good call there. I know David Collier. I know a David Carr in Amarillo that does the news. Put them in touch. Debbie, favorite quarterback running back duos, Debbie Lethridge and Byron Hanspard. You know, Debbie at the start of the Big 12, she kept the ball out of the opposing team, wouldn't throw an interception, wouldn't throw a completion, but wouldn't throw an interception either. Spike loved it. Good Lord, people. Oh, I know. Oh, okay. Zebby. Yeah, Zebby. Your all-time favorite Texas Tech quarterback, running back duos, all-time history. Are injuries your biggest concern for Texas Tech this year, reaching whatever your goal is? After the Quentin Joyner injury, it was smooth sailing until it wasn't. Welcome to August. That's the way it goes for most teams. It is a freaking pleasure for me to do this for the first time in this setting, to bring on one of the OGs of Big 12 media, a man who has created, crafted, built his own, whatever you want to call it, media empire in the Midwest, John Kurtz, with us here in Raiderland. John, how are you, man?
Ryan, I'm doing great. Can I submit that my favorite Texas Tech quarterback running back combo is Patrick Mahomes and whoever the hell was playing running back in 2015?
Yeah, exactly. Whoever that guy was, you know?
Yeah.
And every other game, it's just Mahomes and the guys. Like
now, I will say, I'm appreciative of the Zebby Lethridge, Byron Hanspard reference, because I remember those dudes from, I still have the ticket stub. I attended the first ever Big 12 football game in 1996 between K-State and Texas Tech.
Well, that was August 31st or 30th there in Manhattan, Kansas. Donnie Hart getting knocked silly there in the end zone on what I was not there, but if I remember right, it was a pretty hot freaking day there in Manhattan.
Yeah. August in Manhattan, it's going to be pretty hot. Like right now, I mean, it's been like 98 degrees the last week and a half here in Kansas City right now. So yeah, it's pretty rough.
I wonder what bowl game jacket Snyder was wearing that day.
So they went to the Holiday Bowl in 95. So
yeah, so he could have had, something nice from San Diego.
Yeah, that's a great call.
All right, man. I want to thank you for being on here. Later on, before we kick you out of here, I want to talk about what you're doing media-wise. But right now, I want to get into your thoughts on where this conference is right now. And I told you I wanted to have you on because obviously now in the playoff era, from a conference standpoint, it's all about how many freaking teams can you get in. Over/under in Vegas, Big 12, 1.5. Articulate to me why you could get over 1.5 in this year, and then articulate why it's only going to be 1.
Yeah, I think the case for getting over 1.5 would be, one, Arizona State's performance last year probably helps you a bit. Now, it would have done you a lot more good had they actually finished the job in 1, though.
Yeah, but they showed up.
I can't argue against myself and say TCU might like a word, because I feel like TCU's loss to Georgia overrode whatever they gained from beating Michigan, which is ridiculous. And it's kind of the LeBron James, arguing against LeBron and how many times he's made the finals, all that. But I digress. Arizona State should help a little bit, the fact that they were 1 play away from beating Texas. I think really what you have to have and what the Big 12 needs to avoid is to have the bottom of the conference rise up, tip over the standings, and those be the teams that are competing for the playoff spot. Because I know some people really wanted to make that argument like, hey, I don't understand why Brett Yormark did away with the media poll. I'll listen to an argument if you say, well, really, does it really matter all that much anyway? To me, it seemed like, if anything, it did matter in a negative way. And it was not just for Arizona State, but it was for BYU just not getting any consideration for an at-large spot. I mean, Miami is the case study that's crazy to me. I know they didn't make the field, but they were right there. And I mean, BYU had an objectively better resume than them, including by far the best win, which was a conference mate of Miami's in SMU. So it was, that clearly hurt that people didn't think BYU was very good. They were picked 13th in the Big 12 standings. Arizona State was running the league, and they were obviously picked last. So I think had last year K-State, Oklahoma State, Utah, been the teams up at the top, if you want to throw Iowa State in with that group, instead of Iowa State, BYU, and Arizona State, you have K-State, Utah, Oklahoma State, probably makes a difference there. It's just a little bit more of like a recent built up cachet of respect, from people across the country. There's more of a trust. Hey, we think this team's going to be good. They start ranked in the preseason top 25. I think that can help. So if you're the Big 12, what you probably need to have happen is you need to have, ideally you'd want somebody unbeaten losing in the championship game, like in 2022, like what happened with TCU when they played K-State. You would want that scenario, a team that is respectable enough that wins in dramatic fashion, overtime, crazy goal line stand, Max Duggan, leaving it all out there, like great theater.
Yeah.
That's what you want. That's what you would need, I think, if you're the Big 12 to have the best shot. Now, are there scenarios where it could still work out without that? I think so. I don't think it's impossible, but that would be the best route to do it. And another thing to remember, we'll see, on the SEC this year, but it was a bit of a down year for the SEC just in terms of not having a couple real heavy hitters like they would. Alabama being weaker than they typically are. And, they've spent the entire offseason trying to finagle strength of schedule and whatever the committee's doing to best help them. So I would watch out for what that's going to look like this year for the SEC. But I think the Big 12 has a shot. I probably would not bet on that. But I do think, and maybe I'll look like an idiot at the end of the year for this, like I would have last year.
No, that's my job. That's what I do every day. You're good.
I think this year the Big 12 will hold closer to what the standings are, at least getting teams that are in like the top half of what you would perceive to be like the top 8 to 9 teams in the league. I think you'll probably have those teams competing. I have a harder time seeing flip-flopping again, but it is the Big 12, so obviously crazier things have happened.
And to that end, talking about a team that, maybe goes undefeated or whatever, and then you've got another team going against them. And that's one of the aspects that I used to loathe about the Southwest Conference and then the Big 12 saying, well, if a certain team wasn't the right team that looked good, then it didn't matter. But now I think it doesn't really matter in the Big 12 who it is. Just give me somebody out of those top 5 teams that we go to November and the rest of the country is saying, this is a really good team. They're undefeated. And if you can get that team, then again, maybe that's the scenario if we're getting 2. And it was, kind of the original question. How do you get 2? That said, and I don't know if you agree, this is going to be a one-team playoff league. I don't see it happening. I think they're going to beat up on each other too much. They're going to get beat up because the top 5 teams are all so close together, and they're good teams. And if they were in another league called the SEC or the Big 10, that they'd be rewarded for beating up on each other. But I fear that in the Big 12, they're just going to say, well, no, sorry, don't have the wins.
Yeah, you definitely don't get any benefit of the doubt, any grace for anything like that. And I think that's a really good point just about the league in general terms where it's at right now. You've got teams that are so bunched up together in terms of tradition, resources, like even if you want, I know we have some outliers like Texas Tech, BYU, and in NIL spend, but generally everybody is pretty close.
But it's still pretty compact when you look at the resources.
Yeah. And especially, moving forward now, if it's going to be a little bit more of a capped era, we'll see. We got to see how it's going to play out with the NIL outside of rev share. But generally, you have teams that are so close that, like, what does really separate all of these teams? There's a bunch of really good coaches. There's a bunch of really good quarterbacks. I think you have some pretty good rosters, but certainly nothing that stands far and above everybody else. So you'll play a bunch of close games too. That's the other thing. It feels like there's so many tight games in this league. You look at a team like Utah last year, which I know it was fun to get some shots off at Utah.
It really was.
For the way they kind of unceremoniously came into the conference. But they were, I believe, 1-5 last year in 1-score games. So, they were still right there, even with a totally beat up quarterback situation and having to play a true freshman and all of this. Like, you're going to be in a ton of close games. And generally, it's just really hard to come up on the right side of that sort of a coin flip week in, week out. If you do it, we saw BYU kind of do that for part of the season, but then they wind up losing to a sub 500 Kansas team, and they got probably some luck in that Oklahoma State game, a little bit fortunate with the way that they pulled that out. So yeah, it's hard seeing somebody really latch on to that. I will say, I think if somebody is going to, I think the most beneficial for the league right now probably would be Arizona State, just because they have the juice, not just from winning last year, but Kenny Dillingham's like a fun, pretty vibrant head coach, and Sam Levitt generated so much positive publicity. And yeah, it's like I think kind of a sleeping giant program historically too, that people have like wanted to be good for a while. So I do think Arizona State being that team might be your best case scenario.
I agree. And I think that's the one that if everybody else can break themselves against that rock this year, that will get attention. You get the West Coast aspect on that with Arizona State. Those media people want them to be good.
Yeah.
They want somebody from the old Pac-12 to be good, and we go from there. John Kurtz is hanging out with us. We're busting our time frame with you. I'm going to try to not keep you too long. I know you got a lot of stuff to do. And we'll get to some questions and comments on the chat line there, brought to you by United Supermarkets and Market Street, where once upon a time an athletic director and a basketball coach got into a salad fight, apparently, back in the day. Anyways, that's a true story, Bob. Now, hi there. Your favorite story going in right now in this league, your favorite storyline, what is it?
That's a really good question. The first thing that pops to my mind, I probably can't say that this is my favorite storyline overarching, but I do low key. I really like Bear Bachmeier being named the starting quarterback at BYU.
First ever freshman? Is that first ever true freshman ever?
Yeah, supposedly yes, the first ever true freshman to start at BYU, and it's just to me, it was like by far the most interesting answer at quarterback for them as an outside observer. Like, you're taking on a lot of risk. It's significantly lowering the floor for their ceiling, but I also think it elevates the ceiling for their season, even from what it was going to be with Jake Retzlaff. I thought Jake Retzlaff was all right, but I mean, this is a kid that had offers from Georgia, Oregon, Notre Dame. Like, people wanted this kid. And the fact that he played well enough to, McKay Hillstead was the one that I figured would probably win it, Utah State transfer, who flashed some signs of real high upside. And again, it was, leveraging that against, maybe being a little bit mistake prone. But I thought he's been around longer. He's a little bit older. He'll probably be the guy that'll roll with him. The fact that Bachmeier is at least close enough, that's really intriguing to me to see what that's going to do. So BYU became much more interesting to me because of that. And the rest of that roster is probably good enough to compete for a Big 12 championship. So they're definitely a wild card in that race. I don't know. If I'm looking at the span of the league as a whole, I think I might just say, are we going to see a complete, can the league push back on this narrative that it's always going to be just a total crapshoot? Can they get some of these teams that are in the top five to actually stand up and have some backbone really as a league with some, and maybe it's not fair to say have some backbone as a league, but develop some brands,
yes, I think that's exactly what this league needs.
Yeah. Try to brand build. And a huge part of that, honestly, if I were to say which team is the most interesting to me individually to watch this year, I don't say this to pander. I think it's obviously Texas Tech, because it's an experiment that's going on there. And it's one that, as a K-State fan, I can tell you guys, I know the risks on this thing because I watched K-State basketball give Jerome Tang a top 5 NIL spend. Guys, they spent a lot of money on that roster last year, and they were not good. Now, differences in football and basketball. I think there was a better infrastructure already in place in Lubbock than what Jerome Tang had to work with in basketball last year. So I think there's a much higher floor for what Texas Tech is going to do there, but it's not a guarantee that it works. But if it does, and then if it turns out the way most of the skeptics of the rev share era think this is going to go, and you'll still be able to pay guys a lot more than just the $20.5 million for rev share, well, then now Texas Tech has built a really nice blueprint for themselves in the Big 12 and for anybody else that wants to try it if they can get a booster that's got enough money, and I think it becomes compelling domino effect in the Big 12. Kansas just got $300 million from David Booth, who's a guy that's worth about, it was $2.6 billion. and I know people look around, okay, yeah, like they got a billionaire, of course. Well, I think a lot of, I don't intimately know this about every Big 12 school, but I know at least like
Yes.
K-State has Paul Edgerly. He was a minority owner of the Celtics until like this past year. He's supposedly worth like $6-7 billion, like a lot of money. I don't know that he's donated a ton to athletics, but I'm sure they're probably working on it now. And if Texas Tech lays out this blueprint that like, hey, if you can convince your biggest donor, like you really are that important in this era and we can do it, and you see Texas Tech having huge success with that, maybe that can level the playing field a little bit for this conference. And let's see what happens if it turns into like a big gold rush. So Texas Tech probably is the most compelling story in the league.
I think you nail it on the donor standpoint. From I think every school has people like, and maybe not a Cody Campbell, but
Right.
they've got a lot of people that in the past they felt like, if I give the money, what's it going to matter? It's going to go to a building. Now it goes to people, but now they can see a real return on investment. I think they're beginning to feel like we can give that money to Kansas State, Kansas, Texas Tech, and we can go toe to toe with Alabama, Texas, and A&M and battle that way. Where in the past it just went down, not a money hole, not wasted, but there was no real direct impact. Now there's direct impact when you give that money and you see that player show up on your team. You see, I'll use Texas Tech softball, Nigeri Kennedy.
Yeah.
When you see that and that direct impact, all of a sudden everybody else, and even some of the average donors go, okay, this matters now. And I think that can help a lot of schools in the Big 12 free up a lot of dollars. John Kurtz, our guest, for a few more minutes. All right, I got to be nice to James. He got in early. He wants to know who's the sleeper team in the Big 12 the rest of the country should pay attention to.
Yeah, some of that comes down to, okay, so like what's the cutoff for naming a sleeper team in the Big 12? Because like, for instance, my Big 12 championship game that I picked in the like the Gambling Gauchos did the like unofficial poll. So I did submit a ballot, and I had Arizona State and Baylor as my championship game. So if Baylor counts being just out of the top 25, I have Baylor being a team that I think is good enough to win it. They were a batted down Hail Mary last year at Colorado from being in the Big 12 championship game already. I think Aranda will get the defense at least marginally better, and that offense is going to be tough to deal with. I really love Sawyer Robertson. But, not a lot of people are talking about TCU. Their schedule, I think, is what may hold some people back from that. I think TCU could be considered a sleeper there. I'm not sure that I believe in Sonny Dykes enough to fully commit to that. But they have, according to the talent composite, at least last year, they had the most talented roster in the Big 12. Josh Hoover's a pretty good quarterback. I might land, again, I'm like, is this a sleeper? But Utah, Utah, I think it really, that like adds up to me to be the team that like last year you would look at it and say, well, of course, where they finished in the Big 12 standings, if they jump up to the top 3 or 4 in the league, that's a sleeper team. They're always going to have a defense. Like Morgan Scalley knows what he's doing. Kyle Whittingham obviously knows what he's doing. I think the Whittingham situation is different than like Gundy. Gundy feels a little bit more like, I don't know that this is coming back together. Yeah. Whittingham, it feels a little bit more like really they've had some terrible luck at quarterback and probably put a little bit too many eggs in the basket of Cam Rising actually healing up. Yep. So Devin Dampier, I think the risk is Devin Dampier, they obviously are bringing him in to run him. He was a 12-12 touchdown to interception guy last year in the Mountain West. I don't think you're bringing him in to sling it all over the yard. Not saying that he can't throw it, but the risk is going to be what happens with injuries again. Now, Isaac Wilson's back. He's a year older. So if you believe in his potential, that can help them too. But again, I mentioned the close game stat. They had some rough luck in close games. They were still pretty close last year. I think they're going to be at least like an 8-4 kind of team and at least on the fringes of being competitive for a Big 12 title this year. So I'd probably land on, I think the truest definition of what I've got there would be Utah.
All right. So we got to Utah. It's a big state. Nice state. Been out there a couple of times.
Yeah.
Now we transition into, and I'm going to keep you again a few more minutes longer. I apologize. I know you got stuff to do.
I am here as long as you want me here. I'm good.
John Kurtz, media man, because you, to me, represent all of the cool stuff that has happened in media that we've been involved in, you and I, over the last 25, me 35 years, the evolution of media. And I want you to discuss a little bit about how you went from traditional media, radio, doing the things you did there covering Kansas State, to 23.5 thousand subscribers on a YouTube channel, blowing away people a couple of times a week and even more on what some people call non-traditional media, which I now call media. So let's go back. How did you start in media? What was your start? And we'll walk through there.
Yeah, I have to say, I love your tweaking the definition of it, by the way, because at Big 12 Media Days, that was really like the first time I had to take a step back, and I was like, it used to be Radio Row, and now it's basically just Content Creator Row.
Right.
So, I mean, like, it has changed. Like, the paradigm has totally shifted. So I grew up football obsessed. I loved K-State football. My grandpa was a professor at K-State for like 40 plus years. They lived in Manhattan my entire life. Yeah. My dad grew up in Manhattan, went to K-State. So I went to basically every K-State home game from the time I was like a baby and they could get me in for free. I went to, and then we went to a handful of road games. I mean, like that was my fall Saturday. That was all I cared about. That was my interest, my hobby growing up. So I wanted to find some way to be involved when I got into school. Landed at the student radio station when I got there, and I was amazed. Like, wow, I can go broadcast games. So I wanted to do play-by-play. It was really the original dream, and I got to do a lot of that at K-State. It's just harder. I mean, you know, Ryan, it's hard to break in and move up. Like, the big jobs don't come open very much. Everybody wants them. And so kind of just the way it turned out, I was doing a daily radio show every day. I was getting more reps doing the like talk show sort of things. And I had a knack for like content. That was just kind of like my generation. I gravitated to Twitter and social media and trying to come up with different ways. I feel like I was always in that realm. I just had to wait for the time when that really opened up to everybody. And so thankfully, I mean, by the time I was getting in Manhattan, I was doing, you know, some K-State HDTV stuff there, ESPN Plus. I was doing some broadcasts. I was doing radio for baseball. I was doing the daily radio show. But I was frustrated that I couldn't really get to do more. And at a certain point, one of my radio buddies in Kansas City told me, hey man, you should start putting stuff on YouTube. Like, it's the number 2 search engine in the world to Google. You might as well do it. You're already doing all this stuff. Like, get it out there. Yeah. So for like 2 years, I would just take segments from my radio station or my radio show mainly and put them on YouTube.
Put it out there. I mean, you were one of the first ones I was aware of doing that on YouTube. And I'm like, well, that's cute.
Yeah. I mean, that was basically, I mean, that's kind of how I thought about it at first. I was like, you know, my buddy in Kansas City, Carrington Harrison, he's a afternoon drive host in Kansas City, really good. And he was doing Chiefs stuff. So like, that was popping off. It was Patrick Mahomes. And I was seeing that happening, and he was telling me, I'm actually making some money off of this. And I was like, all right, well, maybe someday I'll make a little bit extra. And so, you know, I got to like 2,000 followers. Subs. I had it monetized. I was making $100 a month or something. And
big money.
Yeah, you know, enough to like cover the expenses of doing it. And basically then I was looking to get out of radio. So I had been looking at like marketing jobs, and which is what I eventually found. And about the time, I mean, July of 21 is when conference realignment blew up. And that's what took off for me. I remember, I'll never forget, driving in the day. I'm literally in the station parking lot getting ready to go do a show that I had already planned out when I saw someone text me the tweet of Brent Zwerneman from the Houston Chronicle reporting Texas and Oklahoma to the SEC. And I was like, oh man. Okay. So, and that day I took a segment called like, what conference realignment, what does this conference realignment mean for K-State or something like that? And it exploded. It had like 40,000 views or something. And I was like, oh, okay, well, I guess I'll follow this. And I mean, that was the story. It just took off from there. And then in October 21 is when I took an actual PR job here in Kansas City. And so it just worked out like hand in hand. All of a sudden I had built a bigger audience than I ever had just doing radio in Manhattan, and YouTube was doing well. And over the years, I probably, even when I started doing that, to be honest, I didn't take it seriously enough and thinking like, hey, maybe this can be something that turns into other things and can be my full-time gig or whatever. And that's still the goal. I'm not quite there, but I'm getting close when you combine that with, we started the 3 Ma podcast on KC Sports Network with Cole Manbeck and Derek Young, a couple guys, one that's still doing it in the trenches every single day. That's done well. Last year I had enough people tell me about the importance of a newsletter, and I've gotten that newsletter now over 5,000 subscribers. OFBnews.com, by the way, if you want to
get the plug in. Jeez, that's what we're doing here. Come on.
Yeah. OFBnews.com.
That Gators Bayou logo up there? Come on.
Yeah. Yes. So subscribe to the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter. That's something that obviously I think could be a part of all this someday. So I kind of along the way, the last year or two, I've gotten a lot more serious about it and looking at this vision of like, man, like, yeah, like maybe I can do this. So, we'll see where it goes from here. But right now it's very cool. I'm incredibly grateful and appreciative for what it's turned into. Like anybody who listens to my stuff, because it was, man, I know I miss live radio. I certainly have some good things to say about the industry, but man, it was brutal. Like I tried. So I felt like I was beating my head against the wall, trying to move up, and nothing against Manhattan, but I felt like, man, I know I'm destined for more than this. And it thankfully has worked out to where like I was right. It just, I had to be patient, and it took a different circuitous route from what I thought it was going to be, because none of this was anything. I graduated K-State in 2011 with a degree in broadcast journalism. And this is not anything anybody was teaching then. So it's changed completely. Yeah,
now what you're talking about is you're trying not to say anything bad about Matt Walters, and we appreciate that. No, I'm just kidding. No,
dude, I'll give Matt Walters. Matt Walters helped me out a lot, man. When I was a young whippersnapper that probably needed a little kick in the ass, Matt Walters he gave me a nice kick in the ass at one point that helped me a lot. Yeah.
No, you just described a lot of my feelings about radio right now and how I moved away from it, just like you. And I'm curious, what do you love about this format? Because I know what I love about this format. And I'll tee it up a little bit. I feel like we have so much freedom.
Yeah.
Not to sit there and cuss, and not to sit there and do whatever. But man, I mean, we're 16 minutes over what I normally do. Right? I'd have a program director. I mean, we'd be cut off by the satellite. We're done. But we're still sitting here having a great conversation, and I'm keeping you far too long. The freedom to be whatever and do what we want to do on this format is what I love.
I couldn't agree more. The part that I miss about the thing that I miss about radio, it's particularly doing the radio show, because while this is live, there's something a little bit different about, I would have a producer for a while. I had a co-host also. There was a special magic about that particular setup, and it felt, I don't know, more live in a way to me, but it also was not as intimate. Like, I feel like this is a little bit more intimate, where I'm hopping on by myself, and I do feel like when you're in a radio studio, like, it never felt to me like I was necessarily directly talking to someone. And now it feels like I am, and you get immediate feedback with just, the chat. Like, it's fun to see that and play off of some of that. Yeah. And I love the ability that it can just be a split second decision to go on. Like, oh, hey, that was a crazy, that was a wild ending I didn't expect. Let me hop on. I'm trying to remember what game. I think maybe like Cyhawk last year, Iowa State, Iowa. I was just watching again. I was like, man, that was wild. I'm just going to pop on and do a little, 20-minute hit on this right now. And you can do that, and it's so easy. And the fact that you can just do it from, I'm sitting in my office right now. I don't have to leave and go anywhere. Yeah. I love the immediacy of it. And it feels like not having the third party radio station there. Like, it's just the people that support you are like totally there for you. Not that wasn't true with the radio station, but there can be some tribalism and loyalty to a station or whatever, or like you're gone and then they're going to listen to the next guy that comes up and fills that time slot and does the show. So it's just giving you a little bit more of like a one-on-one line to the people who actually support you. So I think those are all the things I really like about it. Every once in a while, I would love, in an ideal world, I would love if like once a week, I could pop in and go do the live radio show thing just to like have the fun of doing it. But I certainly would not trade it for what this is.
No, I totally, believe me, I understand completely. Well, you're nailing it right now. Tell people again where they can get you on YouTube and any other social media platforms that you want them to be a part of what you're doing. Because, folks, he's got a handle on Big 12 right now that not many people do.
Well, I appreciate that, Ryan. So John Kurtz on YouTube, just my name, JOHNKURTZ. Doing live shows typically Wednesdays and Sundays, Wednesday, Thursday, and then Sunday. You'll get 2 live shows a week. You'll get clips there showing up throughout the week as well. Pretty Big 12 focused, college football as a whole, but like from a Big 12 perspective is how I would frame that one up. And then, the Open for Business Big 12 newsletter is my huge push right now, twice a week to your inbox for free, sometimes 3 times a week during football season. But you can subscribe at ofbnews.com, ofbnews.com. I've got 5,000 plus Big 12 fans who do subscribe there, hit that in just over a year, pretty recently. So would love any and all support there. And I promise to make it worth your while. I'll give you a little mini column and then links to everything you need to know that's happening throughout the week. And of course, on Twitter, at JL Kurtz, JLKURTZ, if you want to follow me there. And if you are interested in the K-State specific stuff, the K-State specific content, the podcast is 3MA. So we say EMA, right? Every man a Wildcat, hence the sign back there. But there's 3 of us, so we thought we were clever and made it 3MA. So you can find that wherever it is that you get podcasts, or that's on YouTube as well. So ton of ways to access the content.
Thanks so much. We're going to try to steal your time again here in a few weeks or, as the season goes along. But just can't tell you how impressed I am watching what you're doing. I will say a little bit of a trailblazer in what you're doing right now and how you're making it happen. So thanks for being with us. All right, man.
Hey, you're too kind, Ryan. I appreciate it. Anytime, man. And anything for the man who once introduced me to the Happy Cowboys. So
I don't know how they're going to do this year. I'll get you a full report here in about a week, okay?
Okay, that sounds great. That sounds great.
Pound without a frown, the Happy Cowboys. All right, man. John is good people. They would come down the greatest pregame show on radio, Power Cut Game Day for Kansas State. All right, you guys are great. John, y'all are awesome. Well, yeah, I think we are. I really think we are. Going to ask you to do a couple of things, man. Share this, invite people in to watch this, the replay. Hit us on Twitter tonight at Ryan Hyatt Media. We'll have this posted on the website, theraiderland.com. In the morning, What If Wednesday, brought to you by Shropshire Insurance of Texas, where we go alternate history, sometimes sports, sometimes not. So thanks again to John Kurtz there. We link to him in our Raiderland Hot Links almost every day when he's got new content. So don't miss it there. Thank you, John. Thank you guys for being out there. We'll see you in the morning at theraiderland.com.